Welcome back, everyone, to our friendly, slightly philosophical podcast where we talk about life decisions nobody prepares you for. Today's topic is weirdly intimate. What do people with no kids do with their house? What happens to your home, your biggest asset, when you don't have an immediate next of kin?
I love this topic because it's surprisingly emotional. A house isn't just walls, it's memory, identity, stability. And when someone doesn't have children, suddenly the question becomes, who do I trust with this piece of my life?
Yeah. And recently, someone online wrote something interesting, wondering what some folks have planned as they don't have an immediate next of kin. And that alone opens 1,000 doors. Because without kids, you have total freedom, which is empowering, but also confusing.
True. Most people assume a house automatically goes to children. No children, suddenly you're designing a tiny philosophical will. And people online gave such different answers. One person said a housing cooperative approached them.
Right, that one. I was approached by a housing co-op whose model includes taking the donation of the property, not the cash from it, the actual dwelling. That's fascinating. Their goal is to own blocks of housing to stabilize rents and prevent gentrification.
That's actually socially meaningful. Imagine leaving your house to help a whole future community. You die, but your property keeps fighting rent spikes. Kind of heroic.
And the person said, honestly seems solid. And I agree. That's a cool legacy. Not just giving a person a house, but giving a city a house.
But not everyone wants to give their home to an organization. Some people said they'd give it to nephews or cousins. One comment was, I think I'll split it between my nephews and my cousin's son, but only if they grow up to be genuinely good and kind people.
That cracked me up. Imagine being a kid knowing your aunt or uncle is evaluating your soul like a semester grade.
Did you help grandma today? Good. That's plus 3% inheritance.
But honestly, it makes sense. We're talking about leaving the biggest thing you own. Love isn't the only factor. Trust matters. You want to give the house to someone who will value it, not burn it down in a cryptocurrency accident.
I also loved the part where that person said they'd leave some portion to charity. It's this mix of affection and ethics, not all or nothing, a balanced legacy.
Yeah, and someone else said something very practical. I also plan to spend some of the value of the house in old age, maybe equity release to look after myself.
That's wise. People forget houses are not just gifts, they're resources. You spent your whole life paying for it. You're allowed to use it.
Especially because, and someone pointed this out, American healthcare is insanely expensive. One comment was, the United States has the most expensive healthcare in the world. It's almost 18% of our GDP. I can see selling and downsizing and using the profits to extend my healthcare.
That's honestly heartbreaking. People shouldn't have to sell their home to survive, but reality is brutal.
And the person said, I plan to outlive everyone, so no residuals will remain.
I love that energy. I'm using every penny until the universe drags me out by the ankles.
One person mentioned they expect to be ill in old age and plan to sell the house and move into a care home. That's a realistic plan.
Yes, and sometimes the kindest thing you can do is secure your own safety rather than worry about inheritance.
My favorite comment might be this one. I'll donate the house's value to the organization that also takes my pets in and rehomes them, paying for their vet care.
That is so wholesome. Imagine passing away knowing your animals will be safe, loved, and treated well because of your house.
It's almost poetic. The walls that kept you warm will now keep your cats warm.
So, Tom, what would you do with your house if you had no kids?
Good question. I think I'd want the house to go somewhere meaningful. Maybe a friend, or a charity that builds housing for vulnerable youth, or honestly, maybe sell it and eat sushi every day until I'm 98.
I know you'd die with a tuna roll in your hand.
And happy.
For me, I'd probably do a mix. Family gets some, charity gets some, and part of me wants to turn my house into something weird, like a reading room for neighborhood kids.
That's not weird. That's beautiful.
But the bigger philosophical question here is, why does a house carry so much emotional weight when you don't have kids?
Because without kids, a house becomes less of a generational asset and more of a symbol. It represents your existence, your stability, your choices. And deciding its future is like choosing what story you want to leave behind.
Exactly. It's your final message to the world.
And the message can be, help my cousin, or help my pets, or help my community, or help me survive my 90s.
The truth is, people without kids aren't lost. They actually have more creative options. Their legacy isn't predetermined, it's designed.
And that's empowering. It means you're not passing down property, you're passing down values.
And that's the core of it. A house is physical, but an inheritance is moral.
Wow, that was deep. Did we just accidentally become spiritual real estate advisors?
Yeah, we're philosophers in the mortgage aisle. It's interesting, Tom. The more we talk, the more I see how personal and emotional this topic is. I always thought real estate questions were just about numbers and documents. But listening to people's stories, it's actually about fear, legacy, identity.
Exactly. A house is never just bricks. It's your past and your last chapter at the same time. And people without kids face this double question. Who will I leave this to? And will they even want it?
Right. Let's continue with the stories. I was really struck by the one where the person said they might leave their property to nephews, but only if those nephews grow up to be genuinely good and kind people as they age.
Oh yeah, that one. They wrote, I'm not 100% sure, but think most likely I'll split it between my nephews and cousin's son, who is like a nephew. But I'm pretty clear in my mind I'm only doing this if they turn out to be genuinely good and kind people as they age.
I loved that. It's so human. It shows you that for many child-free people, family is not a biological guarantee. It's a moral choice.
And then they added that they'll donate a part of their estate to a charity close to their heart, or even to friends. That shows how values matter more than bloodline.
Another big theme is that lots of people want to use some of the value of the house for themselves while they're alive. The one who said, I also plan to try and spend at least some of the value of the house in my old age, maybe equity release, to look after myself. That's smart. They're thinking, I worked my whole life. My house should take care of me, too.
And the topic of healthcare comes up again and again, especially in the US, where someone wrote, the United States has the most expensive healthcare in the world. It's almost 18% of our GDP. And then with that, I can see selling and downsizing, using the profits to extend healthcare.
Totally understandable. When healthcare is expensive, your home becomes like a financial safety net.
And then that dramatic and funny comment, I plan to outlive everyone, so no residuals will remain. I loved that one. Pure chaotic confidence.
Yes, but even they added that anything left will go to a local charity. So even the humor has a heart underneath it.
What really surprised me was how many people plan to sell their homes simply because they expect health problems as they age. The person who said, when I pay off the house and reach a certain age, I believe I will be ill by then. I plan to sell the house and move to a care or nursing home. It's sad, but incredibly practical. They're planning for reality, not fantasy.
It's also responsible, especially when you don't have children who could act as caregivers. People without kids often have to think further ahead about these things.
One of the most touching answers was the pet one. The person who said they'll donate the value of the house to the organization that takes in their pets and rehomes them, covering vet care and supplies for the rest of the animals' lives. That hit me hard. It's like saying, my pets are my kids. My house is how I protect them.
Yes, that one was full of love. And they added, hopefully still a few decades away from that situation. So even that plan is made with both realism and hope.
When you look at all these answers as a whole, there's one major truth. People without kids are not careless about their legacy. They're thoughtful, sometimes more thoughtful than parents. They choose their beneficiaries consciously, ethically, and emotionally.
And they're not just thinking about who gets the house, they're thinking about who carries their values. A kind nephew, a charity, a community housing project, a pet rescue, a friend, or even just their own comfort later in life.
It also reveals how deeply the concept of family is changing. Legacy is no longer automatically about handing the house to your biological children. It's about shaping the world a little differently, supporting causes you care about, leaving behind something meaningful.
Reading all these stories made me ask myself what I would do if I had no kids. I think I'd split things. Some to close friends, some to a charity I trust, and some I definitely use for my own care in old age.
That's a good plan. Personally, I'd probably be like the person who said they want to outlive everyone. I can imagine myself at 98, eating cake on the porch and saying, "No inheritance for anyone."
Only crumbs.
Exactly. But even then, I'd still leave something small behind for a cause I care about. It's natural to want to leave a positive mark.
When you think about it, all these people are just trying to make sure their life mattered. Even without children, they want a gentle echo of themselves to continue somewhere through kindness, charity, community, or even pets.
And that's very human. So in the end, the stories show that people without kids create legacy too, just in a more conscious and diverse way.
More conscious indeed.